Of the two main divisions of Hindustan, north and south, northern India has always been the dominant imperial half, and the focus of empire is Delhi. This legendary seat of power is twofold. It is Indian, with an immensely long history of glory and tribulation, the 7 ancient cities of Delhi. And now there is another Delhi, British. The monument to King George V recalls a high point in the history of British India, when the revered monarch held a durbar with all the golden splendor of Hindustan. New Delhi, built by the British, stands near those older Delhis. The Viceroys Palace is the center of British rule. Here the representative of the King Emperor holds his court and exercises sovereignty over an India that seethes with perilous currents. The land in peril of Jap invasion, Gandhi and his nationalist party declaring civil disobedience. So India, ever a land of mystery, stands a dangerous enigma for the United Nations. The great modern buildings are headquarters for a government faced with one of the most perplexing problems in all the world. This is the audience hall in the palace of Shah Jeharn. And now we are in another world, another empire. For Shah Jeharn was one of the great Mughals, whose power was overthrown by the British. The Mughals swept down from Central Asia through the Khyber Pass, and they conquered a glowing realm. Lands of the Peacock Throne, which once glittered in this palace. Greatest of all was the wise and mighty Akbar. His grandson, Shah Jeharn, was a builder who conjured magic in stone. New Delhi has its Indian royal palaces today, too. Rulers of Indian states maintain resplendent residences in the great capital, like that one, Palace of the Neisam of Hydererabad. Strange India, with its curious tricks and marvels, menaced by war, yet the monkey shines of old go on. The great Janahagig Mosque tells of the religion of the great Mughals, Mohammedan. Here the prayers of the faithful still rise to Allah. India has 70 million Moslems, a powerful, belligerent minority opposing Gandhi's nationalism. They constitute a #1 element in the problem of India. The old Delhi fort reflects the military prowess of the bygone Mughals. Their conquering domain once embraced most of Hindustan, almost unified India. And the stronghold of their power was this fortress at their capital, Old Delhi. The ruined mosque of Islam, with its great iron pillar of an even more remote age, seems to symbolize the ruin and decay that came upon the Hindus long ago. Nearby is a Moslem victory tower inscribed with words from the Quran. Allah invites to paradise and brings unto the way of righteousness all who would enter. Now across central India to the sacred river of the Hindus, a mighty flood that surges from the lofty Himalayas. Here it passes the holy city of Benares on the great plain of India. The mortal remains of all Hindus who die in Benares go up in smoke from the burning ghats. And when the body is cremated, here beside the sacred Ganges, the soul of the Hindu goes straight to eternal bliss. The oldest relative lights the pyre and fans it to a flame. A bath in the thrice blessed river of life will wash away all sin. Along the northern bank, the followers of the Hindu gods come to pray and bathe in the holy river. The Ganges, which receives the ashes of the dead, also absolves the living. Blind eyes forever staring at the sun that robbed their sight. Along the stone bank of the Ganges, here at Benares, the fakirs, fantastic fringe of 300 million Hindus, freeing themselves by self-torment on earth from the torments of the hereafter. Fantastic faith of castes and untouchables, the problem and despair of India. The snake charmer and the cobra are a familiar sight, a bit of wonder working that expresses the lure and fear of the hooded death that is part of India, land of snake charmers and snake gods. The deadly cobra has its own deadly enemy, one animal that has no fear of its poison fangs. Quick as a flash, the cobra strikes. But quicker than that is the cobra's enemy, that little animal of India called the mongoose. So the scourge of the jungle is brought down. This lovely crystal pool gives us our first vision of the Taj Mahal, great white tomb that a man built for the love of a woman. More than 300 years ago at Agra, on the shores of the river Jamna, Shah Jeharn's beloved young wife, Mumtaz Mahal, died, and the great Mughals' grief inspired him to enrich the world with this pure white marble mausoleum. Which of us, with a yearning for travel, has not longed to behold the glorious Taj Mahal? And here the Lawrence Thaw expedition has brought it to us with all the magic of color photography. Carved flowers still adorn it, still fresh as ever, carved from semi-precious stones, turquoise, jasper, and lapis lazuli. And so it stands today, monument of a lover's devotion. The Mughal Empire is dust, but India remains, puzzle and paradox, ever a strange empire.